This was the Kherson Regional Art Museum before Russia's invasion, a top tourist attraction, home to one of Ukraine's largest art collections, 14,000 pieces, some centuries old. But today, the museum's walls are bare. This museum is like the Louvre of Ukraine, says its director. We have nothing left. They stole everything. The city of Kherson was occupied by Russian forces for 8 months until it was liberated by Ukraine in November. But before the Russians left, they looted. The art museum's deputy director says staff moved most of the artifacts and artwork down here to the basement for safekeeping. But 1 month before the Russian retreat, a group of soldiers arrived. They were accompanied by representatives from the Russian Ministry of Culture, she says. They knew what they were doing. She says the Russians spent 3 days prying the paintings out of their frames and loading them into these trucks. They left almost nothing behind. Ukrainian officials and museum staff say this wasn't the work of a handful of Russian soldiers who were simply looking to loot some high-priced paintings, but rather they say it's part of a broader campaign by the Russians to destroy Ukrainian heritage and culture. Ukraine says Russian forces have looted tens of thousands of pieces from dozens of museums and cultural institutions. The sheer scale of the art heist, drawing comparisons to the Nazis in the Second World War. And their plundered treasure includes more than art. Buried beneath this 18th century cathedral, a crypt containing the tomb of Russian Prince Yegori Potemkin. So he was buried here for more than 200 years. The founder of the city of Kherson lay here for 2 centuries, until last October. The Russian soldiers came and asked for a tour, the priest says. Then they returned in the evening and told me to open the crypt. He says the Russians removed Potemkin's bones in a cloth bag and took them away. The Russians said they were taking the remains to protect them because they said the Ukrainians were planning to bomb the church, he says. But after they fled, it was the Russian army that turned their big guns on Kherson. The priest showed us where the Russian shelling hit, in the yard outside the cathedral. The explosion shattered windows and toppled the chandelier, but fortunately no one was hurt. The whereabouts of Potemkin's bones are unknown, but some of the stolen artwork has apparently turned up in Russian-occupied Crimea. These objects are proof of our Ukrainian identity and history, she says. They're trying to steal our heritage. They want to totally destroy it. But if that was indeed Russia's goal, it appears to be backfiring. Across Ukraine, Russian monuments and street names are being removed. Odessa's statue of Russian Empress Catherine the Great was recently torn down. We found it replaced with a Ukrainian flag. And many, including Kherson's art museum director, who used to speak Russian, have stopped. I felt like I was dying. The Russians put our paintings inside a filthy truck like garbage, she says, speaking Ukrainian. We are going to get them back. Paintings and artifacts can be stolen, but Vladimir Putin is discovering this country's cultural heritage is not so easily erased. Jeff Semple, Global News, Kherson.